Welcome to the Glenn Mackintosh Show, where we talk everything psychology of eating, physical movement, weight, and body image. And speaking of body image, we have the one, the only Taryn Brumfitt. Now, Taryn is a best-selling author and director of the social change documentary Embrace. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Honestly, when I'm doing body image work, it does half my therapy for me.
Nice.
Taryn's global crusade to end body dissatisfaction, it's seen her recognised by the United Nations Women, Amy Poehler's Smart Girls, and the Gina Davis Institute. Whether it's motivating the next generation at Google HQ or becoming General Electric's highest rated speaker, Taryn's determination to shift the way the world thinks about themselves and their bodies has the support of high-profile personalities like Rosie O'Donnell, Ricky Lake, and Ashton Kutcher. Named alongside Beyonce and Emma Watson in Brigitte's magazine's Woman of the Year, Taryn's powerful message has reached over 100 million people via the likes of the Washington Post, the Doctors, Good Morning America, and the Today Show. Taryn lives in Adelaide with her husband Matthew, 3 children, 1 dog, 1 turtle, and 10 fish. And you can find out all about this if you follow Taryn's Instagram account. It's Body Image Movement. Taryn, I love your Instagram account. It is one of the few that every time you have a post, I look to it. So guys, if you want to do yourselves a favor, check out Taryn's Instagram. It's so warm, such great messages on there, but it's a lot of fun. So without further ado, Taryn, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. You're making me quite nervous with that intro.
Well, that's okay because we are really nervous to have you.
Oh, well, and you know, the turtle ate 3 fish, so I need to update that there's only 7 left.
It's so interesting you should say that because I was actually thinking, I wonder in my family if we could actually keep a tally on our fish. I know that we had some guinea pigs and Mum left my twin brother alone with both of them. And
Not so good.
yeah,
No.
It wasn't so good. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We've just put back my therapy a couple of years. What we are here to talk about is body image. And honestly, Taryn, I can't think of a better person to talk about than you. So we're going to spend some time and we're going to talk about Taryn's personal journey because you've got a really powerful personal story. Mm-hmm. Now, you can see a lot about that in Embrace, the documentary. You can read a lot about it in Embrace Yourself, your new book. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important that we talk about it. Then what we're going to do is Taryn's agreed to spend some time with us and really look at some of the how-tos of a positive body image. I think that due to the work of Taryn and some other wonderful body positive advocates, people are ready to become body positive. It's something we're becoming familiar with, but then we have to ask that question of, well, how do I actually do it? And Taryn's work, it has some great how-tos that I really want to take you guys through. Of course, you know, my guys are really interested in weight. A lot of the guys I work with live in larger bodies. So we're going to talk about how does body positivity kind of relate to eating and physical activity and your weight, because I think there's a lot of barriers around weight and becoming body positive. And then we might finish up with, Taryn, you, through your work, have just been exposed to all of these amazing body positive advocates. So we might let people know how they can join this community and get the benefits from that and what are some kind of next steps.
For sure. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into it. We'll start off with the documentary. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, guys, if you haven't watched this documentary, you really have to. So, Taryn, for me, if I'm doing intuitive eating work with people, one of the first go-tos is I recommend Rick Korsman's book, If Not Dieting, Then What? Or our friend Linda Bacon's book, Health at Every Size. And then, if I'm doing body image work with any of my clients, you are one of the 2 go-tos. So the first thing I do is I ask people to do a social media declutter and get rid of all the stuff that makes them feel kind of less than or like they need to change their bodies or all those thin ideal images. And then I just ask them to go and see Embrace.
Nice. Thank you.
My favourite stat on Embrace, which I actually read in your book, is that 52,000 people watched this in one night in Germany.
Yeah, it was quite unreal, actually, because I don't think anyone saw that coming. We released it in cinema. We were up against, not that I even knew this at the time, I just wanted people to come and watch Embrace in Germany. But on that same night, King Arthur was releasing King Arthur 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy. And sure enough, Embrace went #1 at the box office.
Absolutely mental, isn't it?
It is, but you know what it says? I think it just says that we are all so ready to come together to talk about how we've felt and look at solutions, how we can move forward, because we're just kind of done with hating our bodies. And 52,000 people coming to see Embrace and start a fresh conversation. That was what that was.
The world is really ready for it. And that's what I see Embrace as. I see it as a turning point in the way that we talk and think and feel and act and interact around our bodies.
Yeah, it's a conversation starter, and I think because of the characters in Embrace who are so open and so vulnerable with their own stories, it gives permission for other people to feel the same and share their stories. And I think it's a question that comes up for me a lot in the media, is how I feel about the mission of creating global change. And, you know, do you think that can be done? Like, doesn't that make you feel stressed? And I'm like, yeah, maybe it does. Why are you asking this question? But you know what? What I know is from traveling to many, many countries around the world and speaking to hundreds of thousands of people, is that we mostly feel the same way. We don't want to be at war with our body anymore. We don't want to see some of the things that we see, the women being objectified, young girls being sexualized, we don't want to be preyed upon, you know, the weight loss industry, cosmetic industry, the diet industry. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that just doesn't feel good. And we want an alternative. So, yeah.
And I think, speaking as a health professional, when you say that, I think even health professionals, sometimes you could point the finger at us as propagating bias and stigma and discrimination around bodies, especially people who live in larger bodies. But I think when I talk to health professionals, I think we're ready for it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
This came up in a recent conversation, just going, how are we all going to change the world? And I'm like, I just think we're almost ready, because you're right. More and more health professionals are talking about health at every size. That would have been very, very radical 10 years ago. But,
very radical.
But now this is part of the conversation, and people are starting to get a little bit curious in the health industry. And I think that's really exciting.
Absolutely exciting. Absolutely exciting. But this all started, Taryn, with you and your personal experience. It's just amazing that this whole global change started with you.
Yes.
When did you first realize that being thin and being really fit looking wasn't your golden ticket to health and happiness and success?
So for those people who are listening who don't know my story, basically I hated my body and I wanted to have the perfect bikini body. So I set out on a mission to lose the weight and tone up, and in 15 weeks lost 15 kilos, and I got there. I got into a bikini, which I hadn't done ever in my entire life. And it was in the moment that I actually entered a bodybuilding competition, like a fitness competition. Never say never. Let me just say that, because
you weren't planning to.
Oh my goodness, no! Are you serious? No. And walking on a stage in like a teeny tiny bikini, you know, in high heels in front of 900 people. No, not my thing. But anyway, never say never. But walking across that stage, I realised that to have that perfect bikini body was such a battle for me. It took so much obsession about food and cutting food up and putting it into tiny plastic containers. Like, that's empowering and feels good. It doesn't.
Because you talk about that in your book. It's like you were trying to pretend like all of that food prep was fun, and eating that very kind of limited, bland food was fun.
Yeah, but no sauce. Seriously, what is food without sauce? Give me some sauce. And I think just the obsession about what was going into my body, what I weighed on the scales, it was was no life. It was not sustainable. It actually, having that bikini body made me miserable.
It was really the opposite of the thin ideal.
Yeah, I was really surprised to get there and go, oh no, I want to go back.
So it surprised you?
Yeah, of course it did.
Yeah.
I thought it would make me really happy, you know, to have that body that I dreamed about and I'd seen in magazines and on billboards and on TV. I got there and I wasn't happy.
And then you did something really interesting. You posted a very different kind of before and after shot. So tell us about that.
Well, before photos, you always see a woman before and she's really sad and overweight, and then she loses weight and miraculously she becomes happy. And that's just not the case. That's right. And I'm very, very tanned. It's just not the case. So I swapped mine around. The before was on stage in that perfect bikini body. The after was naked, but you couldn't see anything, but you could certainly see the rolls and the folds and the rest. And yeah, I posted it on social media and it went crazy.
It went absolutely nuts, didn't it?
It was headline news everywhere, you know, in France, in Germany, in the US, in Japan, everywhere. I mean, it was on the in-flight news on Qantas, which I think is hilarious. A friend of mine got off a flight and went, you were just on the Qantas in-flight news. And I'm like, wow.
Pretty much naked.
That's right. This has really broken people's brains, hasn't it? I mean, even that, this is how ludicrous the fact that it went viral, which I'm really grateful for now because it's given me a platform to speak about this and help people. But how crazy to think that a reverse before and after photograph, a woman loving her body after, is somehow headline news.
Well, that seems the ludicrous thing, because you look at that photo, and we will post a link to that photo. I'm sure you can see it on your website.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, we'll post a link to the photo. But you just look, I suppose, to me like just a normal person. And I think for me, that's why this message is so important, because the world's brains just kind of went into a tiz because here was a normal looking person who didn't hate her body. And that was so unusual and so hard for people to kind of comprehend.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it's the only way I can describe it is that it broke people's brains.
Yeah, it really broke people's brains. Like, how's this normal person?
Yeah.
And because, you know, we were talking about this before, that in psychology, psychologists talk about a normative discontent with the way that you look, which means it's, you know, it actually doesn't really matter what shape or size we are, we don't like our bodies. You know, we're sitting here in what is my office most of the time, and I see people who live in really, really large bodies, maybe a couple 100 kilos or more, who don't like them. And then I see people who live in bodies that are 42 kilos and don't like them. It's a real myth that you have to, you know, becoming thin is the way to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because there's so many wasted lives. People are wasting so much time battling against their own miracle. You know, the body is a miracle. The things that our bodies, you know, can do. It's a little bit sad, but you know what? Now we're having these conversations, and now there is an alternative, and we have a choice. And I think that's what people are learning. It's like, oh, I don't have to hate my body and feel this crap. I can learn to love and embrace it, no matter what it looks like.
And that's a really, really powerful message, isn't it, Taryn? Because we kind of, I think that for a lot of people, and you know, I'm a psychologist, I work in body image, eating, weight, movement, and I think that people actually, a lot of people, they'd love to love their bodies more, but they actually don't think that it's achievable. And what you're showing people, women especially, is that it's doable. So tell us about, you know, the documentary is called Embrace. The book is Embrace Yourself. What does embrace mean to you? Because I read in your book, you kind of describe it like getting a golden ticket to life.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way I describe it, because it just feels so free. I think that's the word, really. Just free and joyous. I feel really liberated. Life just feels extra sparkly and fun, and I just feel light.
Just light.
And people often ask me, like, where do you get all your energy from? And I didn't used to have this much energy, but it's because, you know, all of that body hating and all of those conversations that used to fill up my head, they're just no longer there.
Because it's so time consuming, isn't it? So much energy, so many thoughts, so many emotions people are fighting against when they're fighting the body that they're living in.
Yeah, it's hard work hating your body. And I think, you know, when we talk about change and wanting to, you know, people out there who want to change but don't know how to change, I think there's a lot of fear around that. Will I ever be able to embrace? You know, this is a question. Will I ever be able to love my body?
Absolutely.
And I think what's really important and what's happening and has been happening over the last few years is more and more people are telling their stories. And that's really inspiring. It's nice to know that you're not alone. And that before and after photograph, I received 7,000 emails. 7, do you know how many emails? That's a lot of emails. Do you know? Someone says to me the other day, like, oh, my inbox, I got 50 emails. I'm like, try 7,000.
Em, who runs the office and probably deals with, how many would you deal with? A couple hundred a day at least? It's like, wow, 7,000, that's another level above.
It was a lot, but you know what it said was, we all have stories, no matter who we are, no matter what our bodies look like, no matter what size they are. And for a lot of us have been struggling behind closed doors about how we feel about our bodies.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for social media, that it's enabled us to connect with strangers around the world and share this. It's important to talk about it.
It's absolutely powerful because we sort of, I suppose that, you know, we live in a society where it's not so friendly to people who don't look like that perfect thin ideal. And so it's so important for people to connect with like a subculture that's growing, that kind of embraces the fact that we don't all look the same and we're not all supposed to look the same.
That's right. And I always talk about the row of babies. A friend of mine, Dr. Emma Johnson, talks about this, that if we lined up a row of 6-month-old babies, like here, we're hideous because we're really noisy. But like, look at the diversity in all those babies.
Yeah.
You know, some have these little chunky thighs that you just love and want to squidge, and you know, some are sort of, you know, smaller, some are larger, some are brown, some are black, some are white. All this rich diversity. What happens when we grow up? That what we have to all conform to the same.
Yeah.
You know, look at that diversity. Then it doesn't change.
It doesn't
we need
change.
to embrace that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we need to be seeing then. Like you say, in social media, it's so good for people to be seeing. And if you look at the people that you recommend, that people connect with in the book, what you're seeing is a diversity of shapes and sizes, just like we see in real life.
Absolutely. And attitudes towards their bodies. Like I love my social media feed. I love my Instagram and the people that I follow, because I never know what I'm going to get.
Yep.
And it's exciting to see, you know, Body Posy Panda over in the UK posting a jiggle dance that she does. Like, it just brings joy to my life, you know. And I guess that's why I have such a positive relationship with social media, because like what you were saying earlier about declutter. Is that
Decluttering. We call it decluttering or spring cleaning.
I love that. Yeah. So I encourage people to follow, unfollow. Who are you going to unfollow?
Yep.
Who can you follow?
Yep.
And it's amazing how many people allow toxic messages and toxic people and ideals into their life, and they think it's okay because it's on their phone. You would never let that happen in real life. You'd never let a friend into your circle, your girl gang, or your boy gang, who's mean and nasty, but or says things that doesn't feel good or doesn't serve you. So why do we allow this on our phones?
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, isn't it? That we're so used to the media and now social media sending us these messages that are really toxic and harmful, that sometimes we just kind of brush it off. So all right, give it to us then, Taryn. Who are some people that are people that we should follow in the body positive space? Because what I've done is I'm almost finished your book. I have just gone through your book, and in the book, one of the things I love is you actually have like little mini chapters from some of these people that are just beautiful. And I think that you know, body positivity is kind of like learning a new language. You need different teachers. You need waves of similar information said in lots of different ways, and that's part of why I think the book is so great. But I've just literally gone through and just followed everyone on there. I knew quite a few of them.
Sure.
Louise Green, who's in there,
Yep.
she actually was the first person on the Glenn Mackintosh show.
Amazing.
Yep.
I think I did see that somewhere, that you had connected with her.
Yeah.
So she's great. We met in Vancouver a few years ago.
Just
and
amazing.
I just love what she brings to this space.
Yep.
So yeah, look, Louise Green, Body Posy Panda, Jade Beale, Renee Aria, Style Me Sunday, Michaela Skilney. There's a small handful.
There's a few for you, and we will provide some links to those guys
For
so
sure.
you can get all connected and join that community.
Yeah.
Well, Taryn, thank you so much for talking about your personal journey. And we know that the world is ready for it. And I just think it's absolutely amazing that from your personal journey, you've sparked a worldwide change. Now, I know that that everyone listening is going to want this golden ticket. So let's get on to some of the how-tos and some of the barriers that people are going to face in this journey to really authentically embracing.
Sounds good.